I'm joined right now by Nick Timothy. He's a Conservative MP. He's also former Chief of Staff to Theresa May when she was at number 10 as Prime Minister. And he's joining us right now live from College Green in Westminster. A very good afternoon to you, Nick.
Good day to you, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, look, you've been writing and talking about these sort of issues of freedom of speech and the need to sort of maintain our fundamental rights for a very, very long time, and I commend you for that. But you're also making efforts within Parliament now. You're an MP. You're introducing a bill in Parliament today. What will it do?
Well, the bill will actually be introduced next Tuesday. It's a 10-minute rule bill, which is a form of private members' bill. And what it does is try to stop this creep towards a de facto blasphemy law that we seem to have now. So yesterday, a man was found guilty of public order offences after he burned a Koran outside the Turkish embassy earlier in the year. And I think it's wrong to use the Public Order Act from 1986 in this way. It's a new thing, and we need to amend the law to make it absolutely clear that there is a right to criticise and protest peacefully and without inciting people against religious beliefs, and in particular Islam, which is where we have these problems emerging.
Well, this is a crucial thing. There is a right to do all of that apart from Islam, and you know that, and I know that, and everyone listening and watching knows that too, and we've seen that again and again, and we've seen many people cowed by this, including, I think, the police, the Crime Prosecution Service, and our politicians as well. We had a backbench Labour MP, a Muslim MP, calling for a blasphemy law, you know, to be brought back in. Only a few months ago in Parliament at PMQs, and I have to say I did not see the Prime Minister slap that down as I would have wanted and expected. But the thing that's most extraordinary about this case involving this is Hamit Coskun. He's a Turkish-born asylum seeker. He's protesting not outside a mosque, he's protesting outside the Turkish embassy, a legitimate political protest. He has been persecuted in Turkey, spent time in prison in Turkey because he's an atheist. He's protesting against the Islamification of Turkish life, which has undoubtedly happened under Erdogan. But one of the things the district judge in his case, as he convicted him and fined him £240, this guy John McGarver, who should hang his head in shame, he actually justified as proof of this man's guilt for basically causing a harassment, alarm and distress by his disorderly behaviour. The fact that he was attacked by two other men, a passerby on a moped, but a delivery driver, but also a man who came out of a building allegedly armed with a knife, slashed at him and attacked him and badly hurt him. Now, that man, we understand, has been charged. For some reason, we're not allowed to know his identity, which I think would be something we should want to know. But the idea that because someone is provoked, in their view, to violence, that means you have committed an offence, that only would count for one religion, because there's no evidence that that happens for any other religion, is there?
Well, this is what I think is so perverse about the use of the Public Order Act as a way of introducing, as I say, this de facto blasphemy law, because what it does is put the blame onto the protester and says that somehow they're provoking the behaviour of others, and it doesn't put the blame onto the people who cannot handle legitimate criticism or even mockery of the things they believe in. Now, Parliament decided this many years ago. We scrapped blasphemy laws many years ago. So the views of Parliament actually are clear, and we have ministers. I just asked this question in the House of Commons just now. The Justice Secretary said, well, we don't have blasphemy laws. But this is a nonsense. It's a way of pretending that what's going on isn't really happening. We have to address this, and we have to address it now. Otherwise, you know, I don't know, on the basis of the ruling yesterday, what I or anybody else in this country can say about Islam in public. If I express an opinion and somebody else hears it and they are offended by it, then it could legitimately, according to this ruling, be said that I've committed a Public Order Act offence.
Well, it was interesting that the first charge that was brought against the man, which then was dropped, was the idea that you know, because he had offended the religion of Islam. You can't offend an institution. I mean, I am absolutely appalled and disgusted by the burqa. I think that is the most repulsive, un-British, un-Western, misogynistic, costume that women are enslaved by, and I am horrified every time I see it on the streets of London, which is a very common sight these days. That probably means I'm guilty of the same crime as this man, doesn't it?
Well, Julia, look, I will say it here and now. My view is we need to have a debate about all of these things before it's too late. My personal view is that the burqa should be banned in Britain.
Yeah, me too.
My personal view is that the hijab shouldn't be allowed on children in schools.
100%.
As you say, according to the logic of the ruling yesterday, if somebody heard me just say this now, perhaps I'm guilty of a public order offence.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. There's one thing getting a criminal offence and getting a fined £240. There's another thing where you and your family have to go into hiding for the rest of your life because the threat that you will be or your family members will be killed is very real. It's what happened to the Batley Grammar School teacher. It's why he's still in hiding. No charges have been brought over that. It's what happened to the family who had to go, and the mother who had to go and beg at a local mosque in Wakefield after her son scuffed a copy of the Koran. The police sitting with her. No charges ever brought again against people making death threats against that family. We've seen this happen again and again. The reality is, with or without this law, with or without a law that is officially a blasphemy law, or with or without a law like you're proposing, which says specifically there isn't a blasphemy law, there still is a de facto blasphemy law, and it only impacts one religion, because you would be crazy to risk doing this. You'd be crazy even to make a political statement to do this, because you and your family will be in hiding for the rest of your life.
Yeah, look, I think there's two stages to what we're talking about. The first is the law itself, and that's what my bill seeks to address. We need to change the law to make clear that we have this right to criticise and joke about or mock religious ideas in the same way as we would any other kind of ideas. But then, as you say, there's another side to this, which is what's happening just in practice, and where quite often parts of the state and societal organisations and whatever are facilitating this kind of informal blasphemy law. Sometimes it's the police, sometimes it's councils, and that has to be rooted right out, because if we don't do that, we will not be a free country.
What is the solution, though? We say root it right out. I don't see that the police, who are far too PC for PCs, are going to do anything. I don't see the politicians being brave enough, certainly not this lot, to do anything. What do we do?
Well, here's a politician doing something right now. Look, I think the start is we have to be brave enough to tell the truth, and we have to be brave enough to stand up and say the things we believe in, and we have to be brave enough to make sure, whatever the intimidation, that the law is enforced equally, and that the state treats people on the basis of who they are as individuals, not their clan, not their racial identity, not their religious identity.
Absolutely.
And if we start to do that, and we root out the people in the state who are not prepared to do that, then we will make some progress. It won't be easy, because we're in a very bad way already, but there is a way ahead for us.
Absolutely. Well, I'll be interested to see how your bill progresses in Parliament, what support it gets. Conservative MP Nick Timothy, appreciate you joining us. That's next Tuesday, not today. Tom Slater, I mean, do you think they're kind of already past that breaking point, though?
It certainly feels like it. It feels like any law that we have on the statute books will be warped, will be pressed to try and suppress criticism or blasphemy against this particular religion, which is why we need some kind of corrective. We need to make clear that you can't have public order legislation or disorder legislation.
You can't have hate speech legislation at all.
Well, absolutely, because it's going to be abused. That's the problem, because whenever you get into the realm of policing speech and thought and emotion, it's always going to be subjective, and it's quite clearly that the authorities feel under tremendous pressure to censor speech in this direction. So unless you clarify,
we need to come down like a ton of bricks on anybody who does threaten violence in these scenarios and hunt them down. That's the only way of making it clear. I really appreciate, Tom, everything you've had to say. It's a great piece on this in Spiked as well.